Alright everyone, this is Zero Budget Geek and welcome to the Kickstarter preview of Mutology. As you can see, this is just a playtester kit, so this game is still in development. So what you're seeing here is not final and is subject to change. Mutology is a strategy card game. As a mutologist, you're fascinated with mutants, creatures brought to life by experimenting on specimens. Each specimen has the potential to mutate into one of two unique mutants, depending on what combination of radiation you expose it to. Two players alternate turns, going through a series of 5 phases. During these phases, players will mutate their specimens into mutants using radiation cards. At the start of a player's turn, they'd collect 1 research point for each mutant they have in their field zone. The first player to 10 research points wins. If a player is unable to draw a card from their deck at the start of their turn, they lose the game. Players begin with a pre-constructed 45 card Mutology deck consisting of their specimens, radiation, procedures, devices, and lab assistants. They also have a mutant sideboard which exists outside of play that consists solely of their mutant cards, also known as experiments. Each player starts the game by shuffling their deck and drawing a hand of 7 cards. During the game, you will be playing cards into one of 2 zones. You have a field zone and a lab zone. Each zone can have up to 4 cards. At the beginning of the game, you will have no cards in those zones, but you'll be playing them out. And just remember, you have a max of 4 cards in each zone. Now, cards in your field zone are considered active and you can use them to attack your opponent or do other effects, and any special abilities they have are active. Cards that are in your lab are generally safe, but their abilities are usually inactive. There are 6 basic types of cards in this game. The first type are the specimens, which you will usually be playing first. These are your little creatures. They have an attack and defense at the bottom of their card, and then they list the type of radiation that you need to transform it into one of 2 mutants. The next type of card are the radiation cards, and they come in a couple of different varieties. Right here we have a beta ray and a gamma ray. You will be playing these and attaching them to your specimen cards. So for instance, if we attach a beta ray and a gamma ray to this specimen B, he turns into experiment 12, which leads us to our third type of card, the mutant, or also known as experiments. So I attach these 2 to specimen B and he becomes experiment 12. When that happens, this is placed on top of him and now he will have new stats. Now it is important to note that the radiation cards also provide bonuses to their stats, and sometimes they give them special abilities. The next type of card in the game are the lab assistants. Now lab assistants, you put them in play just like your specimens and experiments. They have an attack and defense. Usually they have more defense and almost no attack because you're usually not using them for fighting. Now, normally to play cards, you have to pay a concentration cost. You're going to get a certain amount of concentration tokens at the beginning of the turn, and lab assistants usually help provide you with more. So you pay these to play the cards in play, and technicians usually help you with that, in addition to having other special abilities. Next, we have devices that you can put into play. Just like other characters, they usually have an attack and defense, and they have a special ability that will do a variety of things. And lastly, we have procedures. These are one-shot effects that you play them, you will gain the effect of the card. Usually they have more than one effect, and it depends what you want to pay for. They each have a cost. You can pay for both of them and get both effects, but in either case, after you apply the effects of the card, it gets discarded. So let's go through a typical turn. At the start of your turn, you will gain a research point for each mutant that you have in play. Remember, specimens do not count as mutants, only the experiments, as we can see here. So for every experiment that you have at the beginning of the turn, you will get 1 research point. The player to get to 10 research points first wins. After you have collected your research points, if you have less research points than your opponent, you will get to draw one card from your deck for free. After that, you will get 5 concentration tokens at the start of your turn. These are used to pay for the playing of cards and activating abilities. Next, you will go into your first preparation phase. You may do the following in any order. You can spend concentration points to play cards from your hand. For instance, that costs 1. I spend 1 concentration to put a specimen into play. You can also spend 2 concentration points in order to draw a card from your deck. And then lastly, once per turn, you can move 1 card from one zone to another. Remember, you have your field zone and your lab zone. So once per turn, you can move 1 card from one zone to another. Next, you will go into a clash phase. This is the point when you can have your creatures in your field zone attack the creatures in your opponent's field zone. So for instance, I could have Specimen A here attack this character over here, though I wouldn't want to do that because he has an attack of 0. But we could use maybe Experiment 12, who has an attack of 1. Now, when creatures clash, they deal damage to each other simultaneously. You will have these damage tokens that you can use to mark damage. Damage is persistent, so if a creature keeps taking damage, it eventually will die. And it is important to note that if you mutate a creature, it cannot attack on that same turn. If a creature takes damage equal to its health, it will be discarded, and if it had any radiation cards attached to it or any other cards, those will go away as well. After your clash phase, then you'll go into a second preparation phase, and you can do the following in any order. You can spend 2 concentration to draw a card, you can mutate a card, or move a card from one zone to another if you haven't done so already. And then lastly, you will go into the end phase. Certain effects will expire at the end of turn, and any unused concentration points are discarded. Then turn passes to the next player. And so the players will continue playing in this fashion. Remember, at the beginning of your turn, you will get a research point for each mutant in your field zone. Mutants that are in your lab zone will not count. They have to be in your field zone, therefore they're subject to being attacked. And then you will gain 1 research point for each mutant that you have on the field. And again, first player to turn research points wins the game. Since this is an expandable card game, you have total freedom as to what cards to construct in your deck. There are guidelines in the rule book as to how to do that, but you will get cards, construct your deck, and use them to fight against your opponents. And so that is the basics of Mutology. If you think this is an interesting game for you, be sure to check it out. There should be a link down in the description box to the Kickstarter. I'm not sure on the exact date of it yet, but it is coming soon. Keep checking back so you can find out when it actually launches, and you'll be able to get a closer look at more of the cards through the Kickstarter. So if you like this video, be sure to give me a like down at the bottom. I'd love questions and comments down in the comments section, and as always, look up in the upper right hand corner to see more videos that I've done. And guys, thanks for watching, and until my next video, I'll see you soon.